I remember becoming Thane of Whiterun for the first time way back in 2011 and feeling an overwhelming sense of superiority. I wasn't just some chump, I was Thane. I had proven myself worthy and in doing so had set myself above the others in Whiterun. And here we are 13 years later, our sense of superiority only bolstered by our divine relic hunting mandate. Becoming Thane has never felt better, and with only 4 more holds left to conquer, all of Skyrim would soon be at the mercy of the totally fair, and not at all unpopular, Relic Reclamation Mandate. Roll the intro. We're trying to fill up this museum in Solitude with every unique thing we can get our hands on, and there's well over 4,000 things to collect, so we're gonna have to leave no stone unturned. This is the Relic Hunter's Guide to Skyrim. What better place to start than Dawnstar? We've already done the heavy lifting of helping out the citizens, so all that remained was to help Jarl Skald with his completely illegal vendetta against the Giants.
Go and slay one of the beasts.
Sorry, Giants, but I gotta do what I gotta do. Your sacrifice will be remembered.
I name you Thane of the Pale.
Fantastic. Well, sort of. Smaller cities like this tend to leave a lot to be desired, but considering their size, it's not entirely unexpected that the hall was so small. We managed to nab around 13 or so actually unique relics, in addition to 1 book and 4 gems. Honestly not too bad, certainly much better than Winterhold at any rate, and it wasn't nearly as annoying to do. There's some additional things to be grabbed from the Mythic Dawn Museum, but we'll be saving those for later when we go about collecting any remaining Daedric artifacts. Thank you for your cooperation as always, not that you had much of a choice in the matter. Good old Markarth. The fact that some people in this place seem to think it wasn't made by Dwemer is just insane. I mean, look around, are you stupid? Dumb idiots aside, we're gonna need to make good with Jarl Igmund, and that starts by killing some Forsworn. Easy work as always, there was only 2 of them, so they stood no chance whatsoever. Next up is to recover Hrolfdir's shield. It belonged to Jarl Igmund's father, and he'd like it back. It's located at the Lost Valley Redoubt, so we'll be making our way there. On the way, we stumble across this guy who was killed by trolls. He has Troll's Bane on his person, which does extra damage to trolls. Honestly, super embarrassing that you died to trolls, my guy. It goes in the Hall of Heroes. Here at Lost Valley Redoubt, there's obviously some Forsworn for us to take care of, but also Hagravens. No problem, we're a boss-ass bitch who don't take no shit, so we had very little trouble here. Managed to grab the Briarheart Geese? It's one of those, from this guy's body, and nabbed the nearby Forsworn staff. There's only 2 of these in the game, and this is one of them, so be sure to grab it. Also Hrolfdir's shield. With that in hand, we can return to Jarl Igmund.
You helped my people and purchase a house for my steward, and I'll make you my Thane.
Good. Since we went out of our way last episode to gather a bunch of gold, we can buy the house available to use and get started helping the people of Markarth. To get things started, we're gonna help out Vigilant Tyrannus here. He believes this empty house was used for Daedra worship, and, well, turns out he may be onto something.
Weak. He's weak. You're strong.
Yes, it seems that Molag Bal is here, and after convincing us to kill Tyrannus and ensnaring us in his trap, he decides not to kill us so that we can help him get revenge on a priest of Boethia. Unfortunately for him, that priest has been captured, so we need to make our way to Druidoc Redoubt to free him and, most importantly, lure him to his death. Thankfully, it doesn't take too much convincing for him to make his way back to Markarth. We'll be heading back there soon, but not before grabbing the Forsworn Torque and the Briarheart Amulet. Back at the house, Molag Bal traps Logrolf and has us beat him to death several times to break his spirit.
No more. No more. I submit, Molag Bal.
With that done, we can grab the amulet of Molag Bal from his body, and are then rewarded with the mace of Molag Bal. It of course goes in the Daedric gallery of the museum. Yeah, so it turns out that didn't actually count as helping the people of Markarth, which, I mean, kind of tracks. I mean, all we really did was kill 2 people and help Molag Bal, so yeah, awesome. No problem though, there's plenty of other people to help. We can give a Daedra heart to this fellow, give some gold to this beggar, and beat up this drunk guy. Next, we're going to grab a book for this lady's useless apprentice, and that means going to Fort Sunguard. The book was easy enough to find, and we also nabbed this Shivering Isle plate. Neat. Just one final person to help, and that's going to be Calcelmo. There's a big-ass spider causing trouble for his excavation, and we're going to take care of it, but not before having him sign all 3 volumes of his dwarves books.
How can I argue with that?
Those, of course, go on display in the museum library. Now we just need to kill the spider, literally no issues here, and the fact that it was giving them problems is honestly a little pathetic. And with that out of the way,
I name you Thane of the Reach. Congratulations.
excellent! As one of the major cities, Markarth was indeed quite loaded, but not nearly as loaded as I am after eating Taco Bell. We managed to get our hands on 30 or so unique relics in addition to 12 new books and 3 gems. Also, helping Calsalmo gave us access to his Dwemer museum, and we managed to collect around 14 or so weapons and armor pieces belonging to the Dwemer and Falmer. You know, I gotta say, going around collecting all the different relics affected by the Relic Reclamation Mandate just feels so good. I worked hard for this privilege, and to see it bear delicious and rare fruit brings in me a feeling that simply cannot be overstated. I guess you could say it's similar to the feeling you get when you find money in a jacket that's been in the closet for several months, or the feeling you get when you wake up in the middle of the night after a really long dream to find that you've only been asleep for a couple of hours. The feeling of going back to sleep, knowing that your alarm is still hours away from ruining your morning. God, it just feels so good, but not nearly as good as subscribing to my channel. I mean, you could also like the video and leave a comment, but that might border on feeling too good, so discretion is highly advised. Oh ho ho ho! Not this time, motherfucker! Not gonna get the drop on little old me. Ah yes, the penultimate member of the Sinister Seven, it's Brutus the Father. This guy has given me a lot of trouble in the past, but not this time. This guy didn't have a new mask for us, but he did have the Evil Mastermind armor set. It of course goes on display in the Hall of Secrets, but we'll be keeping the Evil Mastermind hood as it greatly increases our speed in dark places. And if you remember from last episode, we have a perk that increases our damage based on our movement speed. So thanks for the boost in damage, idiot! On our way out of Markarth, we run into this ghost, and after following him for a short time and getting ambushed by Forsworn, we can collect the Iron and Steel Spell Knight armor sets from the nearby bodies. They of course go on display in the Hall of Wonders. Righto, next on the list is Solitude, the very posh and fancy capital of Skyrim. This place is going to be absolutely drenched in relics, not unlike your mother. But before we can enact the Relic Reclamation Mandate, we need to solve this Potema problem. You see, back in episode 2, we managed to stop the necromancers from fully binding Potema, and she took the opportunity to escape, and is currently holding up in her old catacombs. So, to deal with the issue once and for all, we'll need to venture within and grab some of her bones to sanctify, severing her bonds from Mundus once and for all. Probably. We can gain access to where she's hiding from the Temple of the Divines. They were a little too gung-ho about expanding the catacombs they're in and managed to break into the basement of the temple. Before heading inside, don't forget to grab this shield, the Tower of the Nine. It's unique and goes on display in the Hall of Heroes.
You've arrived at last. You'll serve me soon enough.
Well, it looks like we're expected. That certainly removes the element of surprise from the equation, but no matter. Just a usual bunch of dummies in here. There's also a Potema gold piece in this hidden back room here. It can be accessed by flipping this lever behind the coffin. Epic. Kind of dumpy looking though.
You've come far, mortal. No doubt you seek to enter Potema's...
Huh? What was that? Couldn't hear you over the sound of your dead idiot body.
Not much further. Come with me. Serve me in death.
Well, normally this kind of dommy-mommy energy would be right up my alley. We're not given much of a choice when it comes to Potema. After facing her inner council and her very spirit, we can claim her skull and an amulet of the Wolf Queen. We'll have to return her skull to Styr for sanctifying, but we can make a replica later, and it goes in the Hall of Secrets. For our efforts, we are named Champion of Solitude, and given the corresponding armor set. We're also given the Shield of Solitude, not to be confused with a Solitude Guard Shield. It goes on display in the armory and serves as proof of our deeds as champion. Just one final thing before we can start helping the people of Solitude. Jarl Elisif wants us to take her late husband's warhorn to the Shrine of Talos near Whiterun. And what the future High Queen wants, the future High Queen gets. The shrine is just across the river from the Ritual Stone, so we're gonna head there first to grab the Amulet of the Ritual. And then, in the cave below the Ritual Stone, we can also grab Froki's bow, which goes on display in the Hall of Heroes. After placing Torag's Warhorn on the shrine, we can make a replica for it later. We're attacked by some Thalmor agents and get the privilege of sending their souls to Aetherius. For our efforts, we nab the Elven Light Armor set. Nice.
You have more than earned the right to purchase property and take the next step to becoming a Thane.
Good, good. As you just heard, our next step is to purchase a house, which we can do by speaking to Falk.
Wonderful. Here is the key to your new home.
With that done, all we need to do is help a few people out and Solitude will be ours. We can do that by agreeing to deliver some rum to Falk.
Oh, right, the rum. Thank you.
And finding out what became of this old lady's daughter.
I'm told none of them made it back.
Yeah, unfortunately she's dead, but that's the risk you take when you join the Legion. I'm sure you guys know what's coming next.
I name you Thane of Hafengar. Congratulations.
Yeah, as I said, Solitude was practically drenched in relics, but not as much as you might think. Between Solitude and Dragon's Bridge, we managed to nab around 33 or so unique relics. Not too bad overall, but the lion's share of what we found came in the form of 27 new books and 10 new gems, for a grand total of around 70 relics. Certainly nothing to gawk at, and I wouldn't even want to. At this point, I just sort of need to fill the time so you guys can see all the relics we picked up. I hope you're all having a good day, and I hope you're doing well. The reception for this new series has been more than I could have asked for, so thank you so much to everyone watching. Remember to keep your head held high. There may be a shitload of people on the planet, but there is nobody quite like you. And I like you just the way you are. You, yes, you are worthy. And most importantly, you are deserving of all the good things that come to you. Eventually, all things in this little life of ours will be lost to the sands of time, and when the sun expands to consume the earth in several billion years, everything we've ever done, both good and bad, will be washed away. So try not to beat yourself up too much, because in the end, none of it will matter anyway, which is as good a reason as any to give it your best shot and live with reckless abandon. It's not like any of us will be making it out of this alive. Okay, well that was pretty weird, and there's only one more hold remaining, Windhelm. But before we can become Thane, there are a number of things that we need to do first. Perhaps the most important is making sure we have all the guard armors from the holds that will be replaced with Imperial troops. And it's at this point we actually come across our first set of unobtainable items. Try as you may, Skyrim jank will always be present, and in this case, for whatever reason, some Holes guards are simply not spawning with their light armor variants. I even tried to brute force the issue, but to no success. Peering into the game files, it seems to have something to do with the cloaks of Skyrim, but I'm not smart enough to fix the issue or even know if that's correct, and it's much too late anyway, so that sucks. The other thing is that we won't be joining the Stormcloaks, and because of that, Ulfric will flat out refuse to make us Thane. Kind of annoying and petty on his part, all things considered, so we'll need to end the Civil War and replace him with someone less stupid. But before we can do that, there's one quest in Windhelm that we need to complete first, as it has a tendency to break for just no reason whatsoever, so the less changes that occur within Windhelm, the less likely it is to break. I'm of course talking about Blood on the Ice. We can start this quest by happening across this recently murdered lady and offering to help solve the case. These useless bastards aren't going to do it, so it's up to us. As far as I can tell, the most optimal route for solving this problem is to follow the trail of blood to Hiram Hall. Either pick the lock to gain entry or get the key from Torva Shattershield. Inside, we can find a couple of journals written by the killer we're after, as well as a strange amulet. We can then take the journals to Viola Giordano, who will point the finger of blame at Woundfirth, the court wizard. Rather than turning him into the steward, we can instead go to him directly. He'll not only set the record straight about his involvement, but he'll also identify the strange amulet as the Necromancer's Amulet, which is a display for the museum. Additionally, he'll deduce that the killer will strike again tomorrow night and asks us to patrol the stone quarters in order to catch them. And would you look at that? Turns out the killer was none other than Calixto. Turns out he was trying to resurrect his dead lover or something? Cool motive, still murder. Now that that's been taken care of, it's time to head to Solitude and join the Imperial Legion. Can't say I'm looking forward to this. This questline was clearly rushed and mainly amounts to killing a bunch of people, which, I guess that's what war ends up being about anyway, but it's still boring as hell. Firstly, in order to prove our commitment to the Legion, we're tasked with clearing out Fort Ragstad. Just some dumb bandits, so no problem here. We did find the cloak of the Northern Paladin inside for our efforts, though. Next up, we need to retrieve the Jagged Crown from Corvingend. The Stormcloak soldiers already beat us here, but they proved quite weak when faced with my Inferno fisting technique. Pretty generic dungeon overall. It's pretty fun to clear one of these out with a whole squad though. We grabbed the Ebony Dragon Claw for our efforts, and of course, the Jagged Crown. Jagged Crown. We'll have to give this away, but of course, a replica can be made and displayed in the Hall of Heroes. There have been reports that Ulfric will soon move to capture Whiterun, so we are off to warn Jarl Balgruuf about it, and he's not too thrilled about this and wants us to deliver his axe to Ulfric to confirm the validity of our claims. I guess it's some sort of Nord custom, basically saying, hey, are we good or are you about to attack the shit out of me? Ulfric tells us to return the axe to Balgruuf, which indeed means that he's about to attack the shit out of us. At the very least, he's honorable about it, which is what I would say, but without the whole axe thing, he would have just attacked out of the blue like a filthy coward. With the battle underway, we very easily dispatch the paltry force brought together and save Whiterun from Ulfric's clutches. With the battle decided, the tides of war have shifted considerably in our favor, so it was time to go on the offensive. Here at the Pale Imperial camp, we can find the game logo in a jar, pretty cool. Then we can kill an enemy courier and forge some documents. After delivering those documents, we can attack Fort Dunstad. Nothing much to say about attacking the fort, just, kill dummies until it says stop. There's also a unique drink to be found at the Pseudo Tavern inside the fort wall, so don't forget that. Next up is the Rift Imperial camp. We need to blackmail the Steward of Riften, so we do. And she tells us about a caravan full of war stuff. We report back about the war stuff and are then set off to kill the soldiers guarding it, take their stuff, and then make our way to Fort Greenwall. Much like the last fort, just keep killing until it says stop. We can also grab Herebane's fortress from inside. It goes in the Hall of Heroes. Off to the Winterhold camp, we're doing a jailbreak at Fort Castav. Well, that's kind of fun. We sneak in through the back door and free the prisoners, and after heading outside, we just start killing soldiers until it says stop. On our way to the East March camp, we grabbed Ferry 7, and at this point, any amount of trying with this questline was completely dropped. We're just gonna take another fort. No forging documents, no blackmail, no jailbreak, just go and take another fort. Woohoo! We stopped by Valtheim Towers on the way and grabbed some orcish plate armor. It's not the full set, it's missing the gauntlets, but it's better than nothing. And finally, at Fort Amel, we killed a bunch of guys until the game said stop! How thrilling! We did grab a Redguard plate and a Potema copper piece for our efforts, though at this point, it's little consolation for the bad taste in my mouth.
We're taking the city! Meet the soldiers gathering for the attack!
Ooh, wait, this is what it's all been for. Finally time to take down Ulfric, a fairly small stepping stone on our journey to spread the Relic Reclamation Mandate, but one that must be crossed. After tearing through the city, we arrive at the Palace of the Kings, where we beat down Ulfric and Galmar. Ulfric wants to be killed by us, mainly because it'll make for a better song, and I really can't argue with that kind of logic. If only he'd applied that kind of logic to winning the war. We can then claim Rikvard, his unique weapon, as well as his amulet, and don't forget to search Galmar, as he also has a unique weapon, Foebreaker. And with that, this shitty little war that's basically been at a stalemate for the last several months has been, almost entirely by my hand, put to an end. And all of that in only 7 days. But I didn't do it for the Empire. Hell, I didn't even do it for Skyrim. I did it because Ulfric was in my way, and he needed to go. And now that someone more reasonable sits atop the throne, we can finally fit the last piece into our beautiful puzzle. Of course, we will need to buy the house that's available, and help out the not-so-wonderful people of Windhelm, most of which don't like me very much. We can do that by delivering some Nightshade to Woundfirth.
You're not welcome here.
Ensuring that my fellow lizard brethren are paid their fair share.
Easy. By the honor of Clan Shattershield, they will be paid fairly.
Beating up this dipshit, and giving some gold to a beggar.
Oh, thank you.
Finally, we're going to retrieve the white file for this old guy. The white file can be found in the Forsaken Cave, which we just so happen to have been at recently. So rather than go through the whole dungeon again, we can enter the still open back door and retrieve the white file without much trouble. Unfortunately, it's damaged, which Nurelian initially blames us for before realizing we're probably too stupid to have done so.
Either way, this is the end of it. Here's for your trouble.
He gives us a paltry 5 gold for our efforts. His assistant knows that that's some BS and throws an extra 500 gold our way. Thanks, bro. We can also make a replica for the white file, which goes in the Hall of Oddities. And now, having helped 5 people, our time has finally come!
I name you Thane of Eastmarch. Congratulations.
Yes, we have finally made it! This is what it's all been for, people! We have successfully spread the Relic Reclamation Mandate to every hold in Skyrim! Which means that no matter where we go, it is our God's given right to confiscate every relic we see! Even if I have to take them by force, I stand atop the pinnacle of power, the pinnacle of righteousness, the pinnacle of pinnacles! Hold on to your asses, citizens, your relics are now forfeit! We managed to grab 8 new books from Windhelm in addition to 22 or so unique relics. Not too bad, but it really draws a stark contrast when compared to somewhere like Solitude. Windhelm can't even begin to compare, and it honestly shouldn't even try. The days when Windhelm was the seat of power in Skyrim are long gone, and for good reason. This place sucks. I mean, I guess I shouldn't complain too much. Relics are relics, and where they're found is nothing compared to their cultural and historical significance. And despite how crappy this place is, the fact that the Relic Reclamation Mandate has Skyrim firmly in its clutches honestly just has me soaring on cloud 9. More than that, we can begin shifting our focus to the next phase of the master plan. We may have collected an absurd amount of things so far, but it doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of what's left for us. And while the Relic Reclamation Mandate is indeed powerful, some of the relics out there sit outside the confines of the law, and that simply won't do. We'll talk more about the next phase of the plan shortly, but first, there's one thing we need to do first. We are here in the mountains south of Falkreath. You see, after killing Brutus the Father, we were tasked with hunting down the final member of the Sinister Seven. Nice little change of pace. Rather than lying in wait for them to come beat our ass, we are instead invited to a final showdown. I'm a little scared, but let's fucking do this! Since there was a father, it stands to reason that there would be a mother, and she very much gave us a run for our money. I wasn't expecting that much of a battle, and I was very much mistaken. Not only can she duplicate herself, but she can turn invisible and hide while I waste my time fighting clones. Oh, I guess you win this time, mother! Fortunately for us, by the time we returned, she had not yet recovered from our initial onslaught, so round 2 was over fairly quickly, and just like that, the Sinister Seven is no more. For our efforts, we are rewarded with the Raven Witch armor set. It's got some pretty strong enchantments and is, honestly, pretty sexy. Now, some of you have been wondering what exactly I did to draw the wrath of the Sinister Seven. It's kind of a complicated story. You see, before I became the Guildmaster of the Explorers Society, the Sinister Seven used to be the Sinister Eight. We were unstoppable back then, the 8 of us against the world. I thought those days would never end. But one day, everything changed. Whew, that was awesome, you guys. I mean, what a rush. People around here are gonna think twice before messing with the Sinister 8. I'm feeling pretty hungry, though. How are we all feeling about pineapple pizza? Ah! Hello, and welcome to our second official Relic Hunter report, and believe me, this one is a doozy. Having spread the Relic Reclamation Mandate to every corner of Skyrim, every major city has been stripped clean of its relics. Well, mostly. I've missed a few things here and there. Those outliers aside, our efforts have almost certainly paid off. During the first Relic Hunter report, I revealed that we had collected 232 displays for the museum, and well, I'm proud to announce that through the unprecedented success of the Relic Reclamation Mandate, we've collected an additional 715 displays. Of course, you know as well as I do that not all of the things that we collected were entirely unique. Of the 715 items that we've collected, around 100 or so of them were new books, which is great, love me some books, but it's also kind of alarming because the library still seems rather empty. An additional 160 or so were various weapons and armor pieces. This room is still quite empty overall, but some of the sets are coming along really well. In fact, as far as the base game goes, both the Iron and the Forsworn sets are complete. And of course, a big shout out to Cal Selmo for giving us a nice boost to the Dwemer sets. Thanks. And of course, around 30 or so of this total were the various gems that we've come across. Pretty decent work with these. We're probably about halfway done when it comes to gems. After that, we're left with around 400 or so actually unique relics, which is significantly better than the 80 or so from the last Relic Hunter report. Of course, before I show the full report and total progress, let's take a look at some of the wonderful things we've collected on display in their full glory. Today we're going to start with the Sinister 7 display. Located in the Hall of Secrets, it is now complete. Their shame at disliking pineapple pizza will forever rest in my hands. Thanks, suckers, you put up a hell of a fight, but it just wasn't enough. Next up are the weapons we collected for the Royal Armory display. This is the same display that houses the Harbinger's Axe, but it now has Rickvard, which previously belonged to Ulfric, Foebreaker, which belonged to Ulfric's Housecarl Galmar, and Jolhurt, which rested in the Blue Palace awaiting the next High King or Queen. A fair few number of the relics from the Royal Armory display belong to still living people, so we're going to need to get 100 pickpocket at some point to take those off of them. The room housing Skyrim's unique treasures in the Hall of Oddities is coming along very, very well. We've got a decent number of instruments and hammered copper things, as well as various crystal items and other oddities. Still a way to go overall, but it's getting there, and it's looking fine as hell in the meantime. Just a small aside for the unique drinks of Skyrim, we're only missing 3 at this point, and I'm pretty sure I know which 3, so honestly, as far as I'm concerned, this is basically complete. Also, outside of Fort Castav, we ran into the Dark Seducers. I didn't include this in the video, but we did get a few weapons and armor pieces from the Dark Seducer set. And finally, we have the Thane weapons that we managed to collect this episode. Starting off with Dawnstar, we have the Mace of Dawnstar and Icebreaker. From Markarth, we have the Hammer of Markarth and Mazul. From Solitude, we have the Sword of Solitude and Kazogal's Glee. And lastly, from Windhelm, we have the War Axe of Windhelm and Felmod. All of this comes together with the various hold banners, and it just looks great. Damn shame about the light armors, though. Okay, overall progress. As I've mentioned, we've managed to collect an additional 715 items, which brings our grand total to... Jesus, that was a bad drum roll. 954 relics, which out of the 4,426 displays in total brings our completion percentage from 5.24% all the way up to 21.55%, which puts us just a hair over 1/5 of the way done. I'll throw the relic tracker up on screen now so you can take a look at the numbers and see how they've changed since our last Relic Hunter report. Feel free to pause the video to examine them closer. And, well, that wraps up our second Relic Hunter report. I hope you found it all thoroughly riveting. Of course, it is now time for Phase 2 of the Master Plan. As I mentioned, some of the relics that we'll need to collect sit outside the confines of the law, and thusly, the Relic Reclamation Mandate seemingly has no effect. And so, Phase 2 of the Master Plan is quite simple. If you can't beat them, replace them. In order to collect the relics tucked around in the criminal underworld of Skyrim, I will simply become the criminal underworld of Skyrim. Let's rock. And of course, a huge shout out to our museum benefactors. They are Alex Van Loo, Cal Manier, The Elder Scrolls Fan, Milk Rice, Key of Destiny 04, Professor Jocko, Dalton Baird, WN, Patton Elliott, Cassiopeia, Robin, Bro the Boomer, Red Dragon, Alex Assassin, D Buzzy B, Lucifer, Kratos, Zion Johnson, Baked Brownie, Ganzia, Steven, Lorekeeper 98, and Coors Banquet Girl. Thank you guys so much. You're fucking awesome. And I appreciate your support so much.
Hey yo, welcome to the cheese report. We got 41 different types of cheese. We got out Mary cheese, apple pepper cheese, autumn shade cheese, blue cheese, cave age cheese, cheese bread, cottage cheese, high Hrothgar cheese, Cyrodiil cheese, Dawnstar cheese, Debellin lavender cheese, Divine Talos cheese, Dragon Bridge cheese, Elves ear cheese, goat cheese sauce, gold cheese, high rock cheese, jazz bay cheese, juniper cheese, king's cheese, marin's cheese, marbled cheese, Merryfair cheese, Moorside cheese, pale cheese, Reach cheese, Red Eagle cheese, Shore Stone cheese, soft flesh cheese, truffle cheese, Winterhold cheese, Wolf Skull cheese, Solstein cheese, Stinkin' Priest cheese, the Gourmet cheese, Valenwood cheese, Wedding flower cheese, and gourmet maggot cheese.